Alright, what's up guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. This is Arrow Season 3, Part 3. The last 8 episodes, I believe. And it's funny because I'm actually doing a review while I'm uploading Season 3, Part 2, which I did a few days ago. I don't know. I just lost track of time. Anyway, I decided to do this one kind of on an episode by episode basis, just talk about what I liked and didn't like in each episode and then go general. Because honestly, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this last part of the season. Some of it was good, some of it was bad, some of it was frustrating. So let's get started. First one is the offer. This is the one where Raish has made his offer to Oliver, giving him a chance to kind of take over head of the demon as H.I.V.E. And because of this, he lets him and Diggle and Malcolm Merlin all go. Crap, hang on. Trying to pull up. It's not doing it. I hate my phone sometimes. But yeah, so this one was pretty straightforward because it seems like I don't know. Looking back on it now, it seems kind of like a pointless episode, but at the time, it seemed like it was trying to say something really important. Because he's sitting there questioning all this stuff. But there were things that were good and things that were not good about it. But some of them were really specific, and I can't really remember them right now. But I just remember thinking at the time that, he's not going to become H.I.V.E. Like that's kind of a given, and that's kind of where my frustration later on in the season comes from. It's stemming from that. Even from this first time that I learned that H.I.V.E. was offering him this, I knew he wasn't going to become H.I.V.E. Like, I knew that wasn't going to happen. Even from the first one. Then, all this time thinking about it, the catch that comes with it, having to sort of leave everything behind to become H.I.V.E. It just all seems so blatantly obvious that he wasn't going to become H.I.V.E. from the very beginning. So I don't know. It was this one is more an episode that, if you take out of context, it's not a bad episode. But once you put it into context and really think about it, it doesn't become that good. Meanwhile, you've got suicidal tendencies in the next episode. This one was a bit better because first of all, you've got Palmer finally creating the Atom suit, saying he's going to take the Arrow into custody, which I'm going to talk about Lance in a second when I get to the episode where he just completely goes off the rails. Anyway, but you've got Palmer stepping up with the Atom suit, saying, I'm going to find him. He finds out it's Oliver Queen, talks to Felicity about it, figures all of this stuff out, and then he goes into battle with Oliver, where Oliver just kind of convinces him maybe a little too easily that he's not a bad guy by, if I was the man that you think I am, I would have killed you, and then didn't kill him. And I'm just like, I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, it seemed a little bit too easy. I don't know. But also, the part that I really enjoyed about this was Diggle and Lila are about to go on their honeymoon, and then they get called in to A.R.G.U.S for another mission with Deadshot says the Suicide Squad is back. I'm just like, it's not the Suicide Squad. Stop calling them that. Because Suicide Squad is what we're getting in the Suicide Squad movie. This is just Deadshot with Diggle and Lila, and then they added in Cupid. I don't know why she was there. I guess she just needed some more screen time. Anyway, So it was an interesting episode for them because things are it's going well. They're trying to get this senator back, and it turns out the senator actually set this whole hostage situation up, and he was going to become the only survivor and come out a hero. Uh, so kind of an interesting twist. I'm just like, see, this is good. I really like this. Meanwhile, they're showing Deadshot's. The flashbacks for this episode were Deadshot's history. Coming home from the war, he's got PTSD. His daughter doesn't even know who he is, so she's not acting like he's trying to be her father, and she's just like scared of him. Um, and so you kind of see where things started going wrong, and at some point, like he just snaps one day, and his wife, instead of trying to be a caring and loving wife, understanding that her husband has PTSD, just immediately calls the police and gets him arrested. I was kind of like, you may have loved her, but she probably didn't feel the same way about you. If it all it took was one day of he pulls a gun on her and she's just like, "Oh, I'm done with you. Police, come get him." I'm just like, that's not love. Anyway, um, but then through all that, he gets his first mission from Hive, which we're finding out more about later on too with Damien Dark. But he gets his first mission to take out Diggle's brother. The one problem I did have with that in particular is that that they're going to tell the rest of that story. That's coming. And yet they try to convince you at the end of this that Deadshot's now dead. Like he's standing on top of a building and then an explosion and they're just like, no! I'm just like, he's not dead. Good try though, but he's not dead. And once again, my biggest frustration is I never feel like there's any danger. Now I'll get to more of this in a second, but this is where it kind of started. Once he was standing on top of the building, it blew up. I'm just like, he's not dead. Just because of how the show goes, I'm convinced he's not dead. I'm sure we're going to see him come back at some point, and then we're going to get more about the story of him killing Diggle's little brother. It's coming. I guarantee it. So that's it for that one, Public Enemy. This is the one where I need to talk about Lance because honestly, it's a retread of season 1. It really is. And I was so frustrated watching this because, first of all, he's clearly making it personal, and he's so convinced that it's not personal. I'm just like, no, it is. Like, this is clearly a personal thing because Sarah's dead, and you blame him because you can't blame anybody else. And that's why you're chasing him down. And it really was. I mean, it's ridiculous how really it's pretty much the same thing as season 1 when you think about it. Because the one thing you really need in a show is character development. And whenever a character regresses back into what they were before, that's just all that character development. You pretty much just said, didn't matter. They're back to the same. Why? Why would you do that? And people may disagree with me and say, no, this is part of his character too. He's going through a relapse. Okay, I guess I can accept that. But at the same time, the force with which he goes to get the arrow is pretty much saying, we are so focused on getting this vigilante, we're just going to let all the crime happen. He didn't do that in the first season. In the first season, yeah, he was going after the arrow, but not at the sake of, let's ignore crime going on. They still went after crime, but they had a little team. He's putting the full force of the SCPD to find the arrow. Like, he is getting every cop on a citywide manhunt to get the arrow. Are you serious? You're going to spend every single cop, every single resource you have just to get the arrow. Screw the people who are getting attacked. Screw the people who are getting robbed, mugged, killed, beaten. Screw all that. Let's go get this one guy who's trying to fight crime. That makes sense. And the thing is, he knows that the arrow's not the one killing these innocent people. He knows that. But In his mind, the way he justifies it, probably the stupidest explanation ever. If we stop him, it all ends. You have no guarantee of that. You have no idea what's going on. And that's my biggest problem, is that he talks about it like he knows so much. He doesn't know a thing. He doesn't know who killed the mayor, who killed all those criminals. He doesn't know who it is. He doesn't know that stopping the arrow will stop this. The justification is that once the arrow came in, all those freaks came after it. So if we stop him, we'll stop all the freaks too. Why? They're just gonna stop being freaks because the arrow's gone now? Stupidest justification I've ever heard. And it just frustrated me to no end. And then, before I get to the near the end of this episode, you've also got Ray getting hurt in the attack on the mayor. Felicity is taking care of him. She gives him these nanobots to clear out the blood clot that was going to kill him or give him brain damage, which the doctor was like, we can't do any experimental procedures. I'm just like, really? So he's either going to die or have brain damage, and you're not going to do an experimental procedure that might save his life. Sure, he might die, but he's going to die anyway. So why not? And at that point, I'm just thinking, you know what? Just take him out of the hospital. Just get him out of there. Because if they're going to be that dumb, I'm just like, okay, so you guys can't do it? See ya. And take him and do it somewhere else. But instead they go and do it secretly, which I'm just like, you can get in serious trouble for that. Way to think ahead. But the really frustrating part in all this is Felicity's mom comes back, and then Felicity starts talking about how Ray tells her that he loves her, which is, kind of a moment of, like, she just saved his life, and so he's just like, I love you. And then she's just like, Jetto? I'm just like, oh no, please don't tell me. Please don't tell me. Please don't do this. Please don't. And then she starts talking to her mom about how she doesn't really love him. She's like, it's because you love Oliver. I'm like, are you serious? Have we not already exhausted this storyline of her loving Oliver? In a future episode, Oliver even says, I think it's possible you and Palmer are related. Because that's how alike they are. And you're going to tell me that she's going to choose Oliver, the vigilante, with one redeeming quality? Good looks. Over Palmer? Who's good looking, rich, a very, very nice guy, and also a hero that has a lot of morals, whereas Oliver clearly does not. And she's just gonna choose Oliver over him because abs. I don't get it. I really don't. If somebody can please explain to me in the comments why she decides to choose Oliver over Ray, it would be much appreciated. Because it doesn't make any sense to me. Ray is treating her very well. I mean, you think about the dinner he took her to, the dress and the necklace that he gave her, all the stuff he's done for her, and how well they work together. And then you just look at Oliver and how frustrated she gets with him, how many times he has really kind of betrayed her and betrayed her trust. It's like, do you think that this is not going to be a problem when it comes to being in a relationship with him? Because I know it's just setting up for more relationship bullcrap drama. And I hate relationship bullcrap drama. I hate it whenever two people are in a relationship and then they start fighting over stupid reasons. And that's what's going to happen because guess what? They don't work together. They do not. He frustrates her on so many levels. She frustrates him on so many levels. And they somehow think that a relationship between the two of them is going to work. I'm just like, no. Not in real life. Maybe in this show they're going to make it work somehow because the show just wants to put them together for some reason. I mean, I don't know how the fandom reacted for Arrow, But whenever it finally happened in the third to last episode, I think that was maybe it was the fourth to last episode. Anyway, the one where they finally sleep together. I just imagined all of these girls watching, going, "Oh my gosh, yay! They're finally together! It's been coming so long! Oh my gosh, I shipped them so long ago, and now they're finally." I was sitting there going, "Seriously? I mean, are you serious?" First of all, why? He Raish clearly wants you to do this. Why are you trusting Raish? Second of all, why? And that was my reaction watching. I just kept saying, why? This is stupid. So, that's my frustration. And then at the end of, going back to Public Enemy, at the end, Lance finds out that it's Oliver, and then goes full force after Oliver and his friends, and then Oliver turns himself in, and then yeah, okay, yeah. Um, Oliver turns himself in, and as he's getting arrested, Roy shows up and turns himself in. To which I say, really? Like, what? And sure enough, at the beginning of the next episode, they are arresting Roy. And I'm thinking to myself, wait, Lance is just gonna let this happen. Why? Oliver turned himself in, gave a confession, and then Roy gives a confession, and you're gonna. I don't get it. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. And so, throughout most of the next episode, Broken Arrow, it's Lance trying to find evidence that Oliver's actually the Arrow. And I'm just like, besides the fact that he said he was, and he said he would sign a confession, and my biggest freaking issue with this episode is that everything going on with Roy inside of the prison, Lance blames Oliver for it. I'm like, wait. You're blaming him, even though, one, he turned himself in, and Roy turned himself in on his own. Two, after Roy turned himself in, Oliver clearly said, "I will sign a confession saying that I'm the Arrow, just let me do it." So he was clearly ready to take responsibility. And three, you're the one that arrested him anyway, despite the fact that you know that Oliver's the Arrow. Really? Are you serious? I facepalmed so many times in this episode because it was so frustrating to watch. Like, Lance blaming Oliver for everything. I'm just like, see, it's one thing for a character to go through a relapse. That's one thing. This is a character completely losing their mind throughout all of it. I mean, he just, God, even when you talk to Roy in the prison, he was clearly doing this on his own, and you still want to blame Oliver for it because you hate him. That's pretty much it. And even that one, the black guy, I think he used to be captain, now he's working in the main office or something. But he's the one that tried to talk Lance out of going after the Arrow in season 1. Same thing here. He comes in and he's just like, "Look, Lance, the chief is worried." I think he said chief. I don't remember. So and so is worried about you because you're going after Oliver. I'm just like, retread of season 1. Same exact thing. Lance is going extremely strong after Oliver, the Arrow. This guy steps in and is like, "Look, you need to calm down." And he does it. He doesn't listen to him. So, also in this episode, you've got Jake Simmons, who is a metahuman, the first one they've actually experienced in the show, I think. Um, and they use Ray Palmer to help them take him down because Oliver can't do anything right now with Lance going after him. Uh, Pretty decent story, I guess, because you've got Oliver trying to teach Ray how to like be the Atom, how to fight, and then at one point, like using the neural interface, he gets to fight for him. But then, of course, the neural interface gets knocked off, so now Ray has to step up and do it on his own. Now I'm just like, yeah, that's not cliche at all. Um, but you know, it was okay. Uh, then the one really good part of this episode, though, is yes, Roy in prison is kind of dumb for me, but the way they get him out was very clever. Because he gets stabbed by a guard. I'm like, seriously, Lance, your guards are on payroll for some bad guy. You see, and then all of a sudden, Felicity and John are talking to Oliver about Roy getting killed, and just like, I hope you can forgive us. He's like, I made my own decision to not for that, for this. And then Roy walks around the corner and just like, it was a plan. That's awesome. And it turns out that Diggle had an Argus guy come in and, you know, apparently he was very good at stabbing people to make them look dead. Um, but, you know, they got him out of the prison and now everybody thinks Roy Harper and Arrow are dead. Um, and with that, now he is elsewhere and starting a new life. But this is, once again, Felicity, when she's talking to Oliver as Roy's leaving, Ray can see how she feels about him. I'm just like, oh, no. And so that leads to The Fallen, which is, oh, I forgot how Broken Arrow ended. Thea is in her apartment, and then she turns around, and there's H.I.V.E. She fights him, and he stabs her. Yeah. That kind of came out of nowhere. I was like, what? And then once I remembered, you know, the whole race will not stop until you become the race H.I.V.E. I'm just like, I see what he's doing now. That's a clever plan. So, let's see. Yes, good stuff about this episode. Them finally introducing the Lazarus Pit, officially calling it the Lazarus Pit, because you know he talked about this pool that heals him, and he's been able to stay alive for hundreds of years because of it. Blah 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 blah. I'm just like, call it the Lazarus Pit. It's called the Lazarus Pit, and they finally call it the Lazarus Pit in this one. But the introduction of it is pretty freaking sweet. Whenever they drop Thea in it, the way it works is just like freaking crazy because she goes in and she's like dead at this point, and then all of a sudden like the ropes get like tugged in to the pool, and then she explodes out of it and starts attacking Ollie, and I'm just like, holy crap. Because, you know, I've heard about the Lazarus Pit. I know it's what kept Ra's al Ghul alive. But what I didn't realize, even though I think Sarah kind of talked about it a little bit in Legends of Tomorrow, she talked about bringing people back from the Lazarus Pit, and Malcolm talked about it too. It like damages your soul, and to see it, she looked like a freaking like demon when she emerged from it. It was pretty scary. But you know, Oliver, because the only way to bring Thea back is to become Ra's al Ghul. Felicity has this moment where once again she feels like she's doing something great by going and standing up to Ra's. I don't know. She really started to get on my nerves near the end of this season, just because of, first of all, how much she keeps like questioning Ollie. I don't know why I keep calling him Oliver. I just started calling him Ollie for some reason. I don't know. I'm tired or something. Anyway, but she kept questioning Oliver, and I can't remember what episode. Oh, okay, that's a future episode. Never mind. Something else she does that really frustrates me. But she feels like she's doing something really great by going and standing up to Rachel and go, "What you're doing here is wrong and sick, and I won't let it happen." I'm just like, yeah, you're gonna stop him. Felicity just, I had a huge crush on her midway through season 2. It started and it just kept growing. It kind of don't anymore after watching the rest of the season. It's, ugh. Her character just became annoying at one point. But I will get to that more later. So that's where Raish kind of tells her, go be with him, go say goodbye to him. And so they sleep together, and then she drugs him with something that knocks him out, and then she tries to get Malcolm and John to help her escape with his body, and then all of a sudden Maseo comes out of nowhere and starts helping them, and I'm just like, wait, what? When did he turn good? Which actually comes into play later and was completely unplanned. Why? I don't get it. I really, I, I'll get to that later, but yeah, Maseo helping was kind of out of nowhere. And then in the end, all of it was completely for naught because Oliver wakes up and stops the archers that were trying to kill them. He like said, "I am Warith Al-Ghul, stand down," and so they all stand down. And then he walks them the rest of the way, and they all leave. And Oliver says, "I can't go." So he goes back to Raish, who's like, "Why did you show them mercy?" And he's just like, "Well, they're my friends. It's not part of the deal." Blah blah blah. And then Maseo stands up and says, "I'm the one that helped them escape." And then Raish is just like, "Maseo is the one that did it. Sarab did not, and I will not spill Sarab's blood on Maseo's account." I'm just like, why is Raish all of a sudden like seeming like a good guy? Because first of all, what he said to Felicity sounded like he was being generous and kind. What he says to Maseo sounds like he's being generous and kind. I'm just like, he's not. Where's this coming from? But anyway, so that's kind of where Oliver's training begins as Ra's al Ghul, which is the next episode, I believe. If it would load. Stop it. I hate it whenever ads start popping up on your phones. Really annoying. Yes. Okay. So Oliver's training is in the next episode. Going through all of this. Starts off actually with a pretty intense scene because they bring Diggle in. It's just like, "What are you doing there?" He's like, "I never made it back home. They've been keeping me here for weeks." And Oliver fights him and then kills him. And it turns out it was an herb that was messing with his mind that made him think it was Diggle. Which I'm going to talk about this scene in a second, too. But most of this episode is about Oliver going to kill Nyssa because she's the only one that challenges him to the head of the demon. I think this episode I'm going to kind of fly through because there's not a whole lot to talk about it. There are scenes that I'm going to bring up from this episode later and something that frustrated me. But the two really big scenes in this one are, one, Thea deciding to pick up the bow and help. Like she shows up near the end when Oliver looks like he's about to kill Diggle, and she shoots him through the arm. Oliver through the arm. Which is kind of like, where did you come from? It's kind of out of nowhere, but so she shoots him through the arm, and he doesn't kill Diggle, but still has Nyssa. And then takes her back. Raish is like, "Kill her and take your, golly, I'm really tired. Kill her and, your reign will be unchallenged," or something like that. We also learned about Damien Dark too, but that wasn't really a big deal yet. I feel like it will be when we finally meet Damien. But then he goes to stab her, and Ray stops him and says, "Alright, so I can see that you're ready to do this. And then says that they're going to wed each other. I can't remember how this episode ends, though. I can't remember if the important information about Oliver is this episode or the last episode. I believe it's the next episode. But yeah, that's about it as far as that. Next episode, This Is Your Sword, is the one where Raish talks about destroying Starling City with the Alpha Omega, which I love the fact that they introduced that through the flashbacks. And so whenever he's like, you know what this is, Alpha and Omega, I'm just like, how does he have it? And then Masayo's like the one who delivered it, and I'm just like, why? So it was pretty cool how we're seeing all these flashbacks to Oliver helping Masayo and Tatsu and her son Akio. Even though we learn in the episode before this one that Masayo's like, have you ever had to hold your dying son in your arms? I'm like, oh, so Akio's gonna die. Spoiler alert. It's weird. Why would you not? Why would you spoil something in your own show? But that whole story is interesting. I'll talk about it in a second. But then you find out, Oliver goes and meets with Malcolm, and tells him this is worse than we thought, and you start to realize, oh, so this was actually planned this whole time. Interesting. But it does bring up some important points. One, how did Oliver know that he was not actually killing John in the beginning of the last episode? Because there's no way he could have known that he was under the spell of an herb when he killed this guy. But he just straight up killed John. I'm just like, are you really that smart? Or something else going on? Like, how did you know that wasn't John when you killed him? I guess maybe Malcolm told him all of the stuff that Raish was going to do. Anyway, another point to think about is... Actually, I'm going to bring up the Masayo point in the next episode. So, when Malcolm finally... they talk about it, and he's like, you have to tell my friends what's going on. Malcolm's like, they're not going to believe my word. He's like, well, take a friend. So Malcolm goes and talks to them, and Tatsu comes to help convince them, because she'll be more likely to believe than they would to believe Malcolm. Here's the frustration I was talking about that I'm going to bring up from the last episode. After everything that happened, after Oliver came and took Nyssa, after he almost killed Diggle, after he took Lila, they're talking about, Diggle and Laurel are talking about how that's not Oliver anymore. And Felicity's like, you don't know that. And Laurel's like, how can you say that after everything he's done? And Felicity's just like, I have to believe it. It's the only thing I can hold on to anymore. In this episode, when Malcolm shows up and Tatsu's trying to talk to them, Felicity's like, that's not Oliver anymore. I'm like, wait. What happened? Because this is not the first time that this show has contradicted itself. I talked about in the last review, if you've seen it, I can't remember exactly what was said, but there was some stuff going on with Felicity where she was just completely contradicting herself. It was when he went to face Raish, and all that stuff was going on. She was talking about how she wanted him to, give up his morals and kill Raish. And then when he comes back, she's like, I can't believe you're giving up your morals. I'm like, wait. You clearly just said you wanted him to kill Raish because, you were worried that he wouldn't because of his humanity. And now that he's back, you're just like, I can't believe you would give up your morals. I'm like, what is going on? And there's another thing that she contradicted herself. And now In the last episode, you were just talking about how you have to believe that that's still Oliver. That somewhere deep down he's still there. And then Malcolm shows up and says, "Look, Oliver's got a plan." I would have figured you would have been the one to say, "Yes, I believe it," because Oliver's still in there. But no, she's like, "That's not Oliver anymore." I'm like, when did you change your mind? What is going on? Why is the show inconsistent right now? Because it wasn't. It hasn't been inconsistent up until this season. I don't know what changed, but this season really just hit the crapper. Because so much of it has just been, first of all, most of the season was just arguing between characters. I mean, if you really, really think about it, it was everybody disagreeing with everybody. That was a lot of the storyline in this season, which is not exactly a fun thing to watch. You don't like. It's not fun to see, okay, so and so made a decision. Well, I didn't like that decision. Well, I don't care that you didn't like that decision. Well, I care that I didn't. A lot of arguing gets really boring and really annoying really fast. There was a lot of that this season. Secondly, this is the first time that characters have really, really contradicted themselves. And there's just no explanation. There's no explanation whatsoever. They just contradict themselves, and that's it. Nobody calls them out. The only time that a character contradicted himself and got called out on it is that Lance, whenever he brought Oliver in, um, like, Roy got taken into, and Laurel shows up and spouts some legal nonsense about why you can't arrest Oliver. And he's just like, "Oh, really? You think that you can do that?" And she's like, "Oh, what? Are you above the law now?" I'm just like, "Thank you." Somebody finally calling out somebody else on their flaw, their contradiction. But this one just really bugged the crap out of me because if any of the three were to believe Malcolm, I would say it would be Felicity, because in the last episode she said she still wants to believe that Oliver's good. And so Malcolm comes with this story that, yeah, he's still good. He had a plan this entire time. And the one that's most outspoken against it is Felicity. And it's because she doesn't think that Oliver's there anymore. It's not Oliver anymore. I'm like, that's so stupid. That is so stupid. And the stupidity does not stop there, because they finally, Katsu finally convinces them. They go to stop the bioweapon from being released. And so, they're fighting all of the assassins. Palmer shows up to take down the plane, and then they all get taken in because it turns out the plane was a decoy. The entire last bit of this, where they get taken in, it's just like the show was trying to convince the audience so hard that Oliver was, not actually good. That this was actually all just a trap to bring them all in. That they try to convince me that Malcolm trying to turn on Oliver was real. I'm just like, no, probably part of the plan. They tried to convince me that, I don't know. They just try to convince me so hard that everything's going wrong. Characters are dying. That Oliver didn't actually have a plan. That this was actually all set up to bring all his friends in and kill them all to become H.I.V.E. I'm just like, stop trying to convince me, because you're not. Like, nothing in this show, you didn't convince me. You didn't convince me that. I'm gonna move this away in case. I'm guessing that was pretty loud. You didn't convince me that Deadshot was dead in the first season. You didn't convince me that Slade was dead, or Sarah, or Oliver. And anybody who's died in this show, aside from Moira Queen, has stayed dead. And no, she's the only one that has stayed dead, which is kind of insulting to her. Why is she the one character that's she got killed and she's staying killed? But none of it really has convinced me that any of these characters are going to die or did die. Even Sarah getting shot. First of all, I know that she wasn't actually dead because she's in Legends of Tomorrow, so that was a bit of me just spoiling that for myself, but Legends of Tomorrow looks cool and it's been good. Anyway, but whenever she got shot, I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, she's dead for now, but there's a Lazarus pit, and she was part of the League of Assassins, and yeah, she's coming back. Even if I hadn't seen Legends of Tomorrow, I'd be like, she's coming back eventually, most likely. Um, but this is another situation where they just tried so hard to say these characters are dead, and I'm just like, good try, but nope. And through it all, just um, Malcolm pretending to turn on Oliver, I'm like, it's part of the plan. Whenever they all get locked in the room with Alpha and Omega, I'm just like, it's part of the plan. The one thing that I do want to bring up, the Maseo point I was talking about, I actually thought it was the next episode. It's this episode. They're talking about like who betrayed him. Raish was talking to the group about who betrayed me and who betrayed this information to you. And then Tatsu's just like, it was Maseo. He's the one that told me. This only works because Maseo helped them escape in the 2 episodes ago. Whenever they went to Nanda Parbat, whenever they tried to get Oliver out unconscious, Maseo helped them for some reason. And it ended up being a part of the plan the whole time. Because if he had not done that, they wouldn't have had any reason to... If they were just like, oh yeah, Maseo, he's the one. It's like, why would he do that? You know? But because he helped them, it's not the first time that Maseo was, betrayed himself. I'm just like, what? And second of all, the reason this doesn't work is because if he's the one that helped you, why did he fight you and try to kill you? Because whenever all of this stuff is going down, Raish is clearly watching from a distance. Like, he can clearly see all this. So he saw Tatsu fighting Maseo, most likely. And yet somehow this still works. Like, why would Maseo give you this information and then fight you? I don't know. It didn't make much sense. The only sense I can make of it is that maybe Raish was thinking, well, Maseo betrayed me, but then Sarab tried to help me. It still doesn't make that much sense, though. Like, people aren't that complex, I guess, whenever it comes to the mind, and I don't know, it just kind of frustrated me that all of this is based on chance. Like, all of it had to be down to the very... And even, like, when they're being locked in the cage, they're just like, Oliver, we trusted you. Kind of backing up Malcolm's claim that Oliver's the one that turned on him, and yet he doesn't listen to a word of it. Raish, I mean. I'm just like, what? I don't get it. But anyway, they end with the wedding. They end with all the characters dying. Next episode, they all wake up, and it turns out, oh, look, Oliver actually had a plan in place all along. And then Oliver is on the plane with Raish and Nissa and all the assassins. They're going to Starling City, and then all of a sudden sabotage happens, and then Raish is like, oh, Nissa, I can't believe you betrayed your own father. And Oliver's just like, no, it wasn't her. Why would you do this? You are Al-Sahir, Al-Sahim, something. Warith Al-Ghul, something like that. So, I am Oliver Queen. I'm just like, okay, so that deception was over quickly. Which you come to find out that actually the plan didn't go as planned because the plane was supposed to just go down and kill everybody inside. Which, I don't know why. I don't know exactly what the thinking was there. Let's kill everybody in this plane, including the guy that is invincible. Like, he can probably take a plane crash and then just go back to the Lazarus Pit and be okay. But if you kill yourself now, there's nobody stopping him next time he tries. So anyway, Raish thwarts the plan. He escapes with the virus. Oliver and Nissa end up crash landing the plane, which I feel like there are too many crash landings where everybody makes it out okay in shows and movies. It just feels like every single time a plane crashes, oh, hold on, it's gonna be a bumpy ride. I'm like, you guys should probably be dead, but no, okay, I'll accept it. Um, what else? What else? What else? So, Raisha's plan, pretty clever. Infects his guys with the Alpha and Omega, um, and because of that, whenever they cut themselves, it releases the gas, which ends up killing a few people. Um, I was mixed emotions on this too, because the last two seasons have ended with let's try to stop the bad guy's plan before he destroys the city, and then the bad guy ends up succeeding and at least carrying through with the plan. And so the city is starting to be destroyed, and then they have to stop it before it happens, before the entire city gets destroyed. In the first season, it was the earthquake thing. They stopped one but didn't stop the other, killed several hundred people. In the second, Slade unleashes his army of Mirakuru soldiers and starts killing people. The city is under attack, and then everybody has to stand together and stop them, including the League of Assassins helping out. In this one, only one guy was able to release the toxin, and even then, Palmer ended up creating something that was able to like give out the inoculant to stop the virus from affecting people. So, you know, they almost it just kind of felt similar to the first two seasons, except that the city was still under attack, but it wasn't as successful as the first two seasons, which kind of took away from it a little bit. Like the first two seasons, they succeeded in attacking the city and destroying buildings, killing people. This one, it didn't really succeed. Like one guy managed to cut himself, the other three did not. Malcolm killed one guy. Laurel took out another guy, and then I guess Diggle took out the last one. I don't know. They switched over to Oliver fighting Raish at that point. So, but it kind of just felt a bit underwhelming when you think about the first two seasons. Yeah, it would be disappointing to see them go, okay, we destroyed this, we attacked the city in season 1, attacked the city in season 2, now we're attacking it in season 3 too. People are starting to die. That would have been slightly disappointing, but what's even more disappointing is that they pretty much kept the same concept, but just had it to where fewer people ended up dying in this season. It's like, so let's do the same thing we did in seasons 1 and 2, but not as big. Why? I don't get that reasoning. It's like you want to up the ante. You don't want to go smaller, you want to go bigger. And they went extremely small. They went one guy succeeds in cutting himself and infecting people. And even then, the inoculant saved most of the lives there. This has been the most unsuccessful villain plot out of the 3 seasons. And it was H.I.V.E.'s plan. I'm just like, really? H.I.V.E., head of the demon, the most badass man on the planet, and he has the least successful plot out of the 3 seasons. Even less successful than Brickwell earlier this season. He managed to take over the Glades. He managed to get all the cops taken out of the Glades and rule the Glades for a couple episodes. His plan was more successful than H.I.V.E.'s. I don't get it. So anyway, long story short, Oliver's fighting Raish. Raish bests him, but then Oliver bests him because he's monologuing, kills him, and then Lance, for some reason, now wants to help the Arrow because, I got cops here that won't listen to me. They're trying to take a shot at your boy out here on the bridge. Oliver takes 3 shots to the chest and then falls off the waterfall, to which Felicity comes in with the Atom suit and saves him. And yeah, he survives the bullets because he was wearing League armor, which is apparently ultra bulletproof because these were sniper rounds. These were not... When I say he got shot in the chest, it was not, oh yeah, I got a pistol, bang, 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 I got a bulletproof vest. No, it was sniper rounds. And League armor protected him. So let's always wear that League armor. But I guarantee in future episodes he will not keep that League armor. And he's going to get shot in the chest at some point and it's going to wound him. And I'm going to say, if only he had some armor that was ultra bulletproof. And it's never going to be heard from again. So anyway, that was kind of stupid. The way it ends is fairly interesting at times because you've got Oliver and Felicity. Oliver deciding I'm done as the Arrow and I'm going to go on a road trip with Felicity. I'm just like, no. Good trying to convince me that he's not going to be the Arrow anymore, but no. And on top of that, just seeing Oliver and Felicity together, I'm just like, this is so stupid. The interesting part of the ending, though, is Malcolm Merlyn becomes Ra's al Ghul. I did not see that coming. I was just like, okay, so now that Ra's al Ghul is dead, who's going to take over? And then I see Oliver give Malcolm something. I'm like, what did he just give? And think of a sudden he's putting on the ring. I'm like, oh, genius. Nissa's not happy about it, but I think she kind of respects Malcolm because of his ruthlessness, and it's kind of similar to how she feels in a way. And I'm sure this is gonna be how Sarah gets resurrected because now Malcolm, the one who killed her, will be like, well, let's just resurrect her in the Lazarus pit. So anyway, they try to do another fake death scene because Palmer's working on the Atom suit, trying to get it to shrink, and big explosion at Palmer Tech. I'm just like, see, if this were another show, and that explosion happened, I'd be like, Ray! No! But because this is Arrow, I'm just like, I'm sure he's fine. And it's funny because it's a huge explosion. It like blows out the entire floor that Ray is on. And all I can think is, good try. And this is not just because I've seen him on Legends of Tomorrow and I know he lives. It's also because this show just does not convince me anymore that people are going to die. There's nothing that I can see. I believe the bad guys will die, except for Deadshot because he's got an interesting story with Diggle. But if the bad guys die, I'm just like, yeah, they're probably dead. But when the good guys die, I'm just like, no. Aside from Moira Queen, who they may bring back later on for some stupid reason, she's the only one that stayed dead. Also, Oliver's dad, but he died in the flashback. But just thinking about how many times they've faked us out with death scenes, I'm just like, I'm getting tired of it. And it's funny, I mentioned this before, everybody craps on Marvel for how many times they've killed characters without actually killing them. Have you watched Arrow? Because they've done it more in the show than I believe Marvel's done it as far as killing people. Whether it's, trying to convince the audience that they're dead or characters being convinced that they're dead. They've done it so many times, it's ridiculous. I've lost count at this point. I mean, you think about Oliver, everybody thought he was dead on the boat. Oliver, whenever he got stabbed by Ra's al Ghul. You've got Sarah first time on the boat, Sarah second time on the freighter, Sarah now. You've got Slade, Deadshot in the first season, Deadshot now. And I'm saying Deadshot now. I actually don't know if he comes back, but I'm pretty convinced that he will based on the flashback stuff. You've got, let's see, who else? I know they've done more than a couple. Captain Lance at the end of the second season, I think they kind of made it look like he was dying on the pier, and then he's fine. Roy in this season, Thea in this season, Ray now. That's about it. There's probably a couple more that I'm not thinking of. I mean, that's 12 in one show. And Marvel's done it like probably about 12 times too. So I don't know. It's just starting to get a bit overused for me. I'm getting tired of every single season. It feels like they're killing off 3 characters, and it's like, just kidding. They're not actually dead. So I don't know. Kind of frustrating. But anyway, um, I guess now a general thing. First, I want to talk about the flashbacks actually, because the flashbacks were well handled, and they've always been well handled. It's always fun to kind of see, except for one, I think, where I can't remember who's. Oh yeah, Oliver's talking about I need to let people help me in one of these episodes, and this was right before he completely does not tell any of them the plan. Um, because it's one of those episodes where he finally convinces himself, yeah, I need people to help me. It's the one I think where Roy goes to prison and then pretends to die and then doesn't. The very next episode, he puts into place a plan that he doesn't tell any of his friends about. He only tells Malcolm. I'm just like, so after that big revelation, you decide to not follow that revelation at all. Anyway, I forgot to talk about that. Um, but the biggest thing, my biggest frustration with the flashbacks, it's probably the only frustration I've had with any of the flashbacks, is that he says that, and then in the flashback, Tatsu's telling him that, like, right after. I'm like, why is this? Why does he say that like he's just come to realize that whenever Tatsu convinced him of that earlier? Or she told him that earlier. She didn't really convince him, but I don't know. It just seemed weird that most of the stuff that's happening now it did not happen in the flashbacks. Like the flashbacks are telling an interesting story, but most of the time they are paralleling, but he's not learning anything new that he hasn't already learned in the flashbacks. This is one of those times. This is the only time that they've ever done this where something he's learning now is something he has already learned in one of the flashbacks. So it just seemed weird and out of place. But it was an interesting story. I was really convinced that Amanda Waller was the one behind it all. It actually turned out to be the general, trying to release the virus, trying to kill the Yamashiros and Oliver in the process. It was very, very well done, and kind of it was interesting to follow the whole time. What's going to happen next? How's this all going to end? Um, and on top of that, just the fact that Oliver's saved the world quite a few times in those 5 years. It's kind of funny because people just think, oh, he was just on the island. No, he was out saving the world even before he became the Arab. But yeah, the flashbacks were fun. It was interesting to see kind of characters back then and then characters now, as far as Masao and Tatsu. So that was interesting. I can't remember. No, that was in part 2, not this one. But yeah, it was fairly well done, and probably the only part that I consistently like throughout this season, because the main plot was starting to really frustrate me at times. But overall, generally, I'm mainly frustrated with the main plot because I do enjoy the show so much. The first 2 seasons really got me hooked. I was really into it. And then season 3 just kind of. I don't know. You had such an interesting concept with H.I.V.E and the League of Assassins, and didn't really use it. Didn't really use that concept very well. And I don't understand why. Like, it's such an easy concept to get right. This is H.I.V.E and the League of Assassins. And you're too busy focusing on, oh, what are Oliver and Diggle arguing about? Oh, what are Oliver and Felicity arguing about? Oh, what's Felicity upset about in this episode? That was the main focus. Up until the very end. Stop. Up until the very end, it was people arguing with each other. And even then, once they finally figure out the plan, there's more time for people to argue with each other. It just, I don't know. It seemed. I don't. I'm kind of frustrated because I want I want the show to be really good. I want the show to be exceptional. And at times it has been. But this season did not show it. If somebody were coming into the show and started watching season 3, they'd be like, "Why do you like the show so much? Like, this is kind of dumb." I don't get it. And not that a show can't have, a slip, because it's not like every show is perfect. Um, but it's kind of bizarre to see how off the rails they went after having a good first and second season. Um, I don't know. I'm just kind of frustrated. Uh, and the last two things I want to talk about are actually two scenes in the final one I didn't touch on, um, because I did want to kind of save it for just an example of why I'm frustrated. In the end, after this is all over, well, actually, yeah, I'm gonna do that scene first. Oliver's talking about how he's done being the Arrow, how the city needs them, talking to Laurel and Diggle and Felicity, um, and Thea, saying that they've got you guys. Diggle leaves, and they already argued before. He talked to Diggle about his plan, and Diggle's just like, "What are you talking about, man?" And yeah, it was. It's kind of like, yeah, they're arguing, but I'm sure they're gonna make up at some point. They they don't really talk about it at all. Like, I don't know. It just seems like Diggle's okay now with Oliver. Like, he's still frustrated, but it seems like he's forgiving him at the end of it. But they don't really talk about that at all. It just, he sort of leaves on an elevator, and Oliver says something about, you should get something to hide that identity of yours, and that's kind of it. They don't really touch on anything at all. I'm just like, wait, what? I That was confusing. And then before that, right before Oliver's going out to, fight Raish and stop his virus from being spread, Felicity comes into the office, and after 2 episodes of her just completely frustrated with Oliver, saying that that's not Oliver, blah 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 blah, she walks into the office and completely okay with him. And these two scenes are exactly why I'm so frustrated with this season, because they don't handle these situations well. Like, these characters are upset, and all of a sudden they're not. This character has made their decision. They are so far here, and then all of a sudden they're not. Felicity was so convinced that Oliver's somewhere deep down, but then she's not. It just comes out of nowhere, and there's no real explanation for it. It just change. It's kind of frustrating. In fact, it's really frustrating. So, I've been talking for a while. I need to get all my feelings out about this season. I really, really hope season 4 gets better. Um, I don't know, I don't know what's coming next. It's obviously something's happening with Palmer, but it really didn't leave any it didn't leave any room for, okay, so this is what season 4 is going to be about. It just kind of wrapped up some stories, and I don't know. I want season 4 to be better. Obviously, it's going to be a little while before I can watch it, because it's going on right now, so it's going to be a little bit before it's on Netflix. But I don't know. I really, really hope that it steps it up from here, because season 3 was just not good overall. It was very, very poorly done as far as the main plot. A lot of characters arguing, a lot of characters changing their mind on a dime, pretty much. I'm frustrated, but maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe not everybody felt this way. What did you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Am I completely wrong? Am I completely right? Let me know your thoughts. And obviously, if you know stuff about season 4, don't spoil anything, because I will watch it when I get a chance. Leave a like and subscribe for more Arrow, and I will probably start doing The Flash next. So if you want to watch my reviews of The Flash, check that out too. I'll see you at the next review. Peace out.